I've spent a ton on gacha games, many of which have ended service. You would think I would learn my lesson by now, but I keep getting tempted to swipe for attractive women. I also have a weakness to the fear of missing out, or FOMO for short. Throughout my years of whaling, I've noticed I've subjected myself to different kinds of FOMO and how they amplify what I don't have instead of what I truly want. This video is a personal one. It's about me, but I hope this can bring a perspective to anyone who enjoys these games. That's not all you'll get from this video. I will cover 3 kinds of FOMOs and share what I believe is the best mindset to have when you're free to play in these microtransaction filled games. After professionally losing $15,000 to gacha games, hopefully my experience could be useful. Maybe you can send this video to someone who's about to go off the deep end for losing a 50-50, or you can instead watch them vigorously spend more for your entertainment. In either case, go grab yourself a drink and get comfortable. We're gonna start at the very beginning and how I got abducted into these games. You see, when you play video games, there's always a victory and a defeat. You could be beating a hard level or fighting against another team. While games come in many different styles and genres, they always follow these bare-bone features. I grew up in an environment where games were evolving rapidly. As a kid, I couldn't just get them whenever I wanted. This meant I would have a lot of free time to 100% these games. Without the use of the internet, these accomplishments took a while. Some games would be easy and some would be hard, but I always invested my time to complete them. We didn't have a lot of money, so I cherished everything I got, but this would pave the way for me to become the biggest sucker when it comes to mobile games. One of the series I invested the most time into was Fire Emblem. It's a tactical turn-based game like Girls Frontline 2. Completing these games would release the biggest dopamine in my brain, but also come with frustrated low points. Get to the ending, I would tell myself. Finish everything before moving on. That was my hobby. But gacha games don't follow these rules. So you can probably assume what my mindset was when Fire Emblem Heroes came out. At the time, I didn't even know what a gacha was. I legitimately thought it was a different form of DLC. I thought it was some sort of unlock system, similar to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Because in that game, you unlock characters through a similar method, you just don't pay for it. So basically, I thought I would have every character in this gacha game, but I didn't understand raids or what banners were or anything like that. I would pull on wrong banners without understanding pity or what these orbs were supposed to mean. On top of that, I had a hard time with stages. Oh, this is just another hard map, I thought to myself. I just need to plan this out and I'll win, only to realize that the inflated stats made it impossible. This isn't how games are supposed to be, right? I should be able to beat everything and get to the end. Meanwhile, my friend, who only casually played Fire Emblem, was beating sages left and right. I couldn't believe it. He always came to me for advice. So I swallowed my pride and asked him for some. I just spent money, dude. Huh? I didn't understand what he was talking about. This was a free game, right? But then it suddenly hit me. I never bothered to look at the shop icon. I thought the shop was a place where you buy weapons and armor, like the games, right? But then it became very clear to me. The reason why I couldn't beat these hard maps, the reason why my casual friend could clear all the levels, the reasons why I couldn't finish the end, it was because of money. But this made sense to me in a different way than you would probably think. Oh, this is like a demo for a game, and you get the other characters once you pay full price. Honestly, that's what I thought. I loved Fire Emblem, so I didn't mind spending some money to purchase the game. I bought some in-game currency and went to the banners to unlock my new characters. So I summoned 5 characters and didn't get anyone new. Weird, I thought, but I had $50 worth of pools. That's the same price as a full game. So, I mean, eventually I would get all the characters, right? I summoned another 5 characters. Still, no one new. Pretty unlucky, but I'm bound to get them all, so it doesn't matter, right? And then it slowly started to sink in. I was on my last pool. This had to be insane. This pool must have all the characters I don't have yet. I can finally beat this level. I did my last pool and got a duplicate of a character I already had. Is this a scam? This has to be a glitch, right? I told my friend about what happened and he wasn't surprised at all. I felt frustrated. I felt like my friend just didn't care at all and I was trying to buy the full game. When I mentioned that, he jumped up, put his phone down, walked up to me, and said, "You don't know what a gacha game is, do you?" And this is unfortunately how I discovered their definition. And I can't believe, of all companies, it would be Nintendo that got me addicted to spending money for PNGs. I mentioned earlier that my family didn't have a lot of money. It motivated me to work hard and never to be in that same place again. I took my work very seriously, got plenty of promotions, and got an education. So I was pretty lucky in real life, but I was super unlucky when it came to a gacha game, and the only way to fix that bad luck was with my disposable income. I got the characters I wanted, but I'm not sure if I felt good about it. I wanted the impossible levels to just be possible, but instead, this boost in power changed the content from impossible to very easy. I was able to create combos I couldn't before, and before I knew it, I finished everything in the game. FOMO revealed to me that gachas want you to feel incomplete. It's a critical weakness if you don't like to leave things unfinished. That's how I was introduced into the gacha culture. Many people discover these through accidents or don't even know they're playing a gacha game at first. I know plenty of people who played Genshin Impact not knowing it was a gacha game because it disguised itself well as an anime Breath of the Wild. If you made it this far in the video, let me know how you first got into gacha games below. I'm curious if other people knew what they were getting themselves into. And while you do that, let's move on to the next traumatizing experience. One small detail I left out was that I enjoyed fighting games and competitive Pokemon a lot. These games felt like there was never an end with new strategies and meta. I enjoyed thinking out new builds and setups against my friends, even though they would eventually stop playing with me. My friend knew I enjoyed games like this and suggested another gacha game to me, and he made it very clear to me that this was a gacha game. It's called Epic 7, where you could play against other players with your teams. I was pretty confident with PvP, and it had other community features that Fire Emblem didn't have. This time, I knew what I was getting myself into. Or so I thought. Gacha games have a very unique way to make you feel insignificant and pressured, and PvP is no exception. In Epic 7, you have this sort of proxy PvP, where you fight someone's defense team that's controlled by AI. And then later on, they introduced real-time PvP. Now, I don't know if I spent more sanity or money during my time with this game. At times, it felt like a soft game where if you didn't have a very specific character, you would lose. There was also a speed stat that determined your turn order, and a lower speed stat basically meant you didn't get to play. My obsession with making team dynamics only went as far as my wallet. It truly felt like a competition with another player, but the gacha company was the referee who could be bribed at any time. There's also something else that I don't know if I can explain well. If I lose to a defense team controlled by AI, I don't feel too bad. Either the stats are too inflated, or I misplayed. I hardly got angry at those moments. But something about losing to another real-life player boiled my blood. Just thinking to yourself that you know the proper strategies to win, only to lose to someone who hardly had to think because they had X character. It kind of feels like when a fighting game introduces a new broken DLC character. Except this time, the price tag went way further than a one-time purchase. I spent so much money to make strong team comps, but my comps would only get me as far as my wallet. Techniques are admired, but higher stats are monolithic. This FOMO pressured me to know that no matter how good you are at a game, someone is willing to spend more money to make up for it. So after that, I thought to myself, maybe there might be a gacha game out there where I can work together with other people instead of fighting them. Maybe one where I can fight bosses. Maybe that would be more acceptable, right? So Dragalia Lost was my next wallet leecher. Surely, an environment where the company isn't the referee would be something I could enjoy, right? There wouldn't be any pressure to spend money, right? Okay, look, people say they miss Dragalia Lost after it ended its service, but I don't. I feel like people who say they miss this game stopped playing long before it even got shut down. Look, Dragalia had a unique identity with its real-time multiplayer raids. Finally, content where everyone is accepted and rallies together to fight against a boss. Yeah, no, basically, if you didn't have the optimal character for the boss, you would be shunned. But because Nintendo wouldn't allow text chat, players could only communicate with stickers. On top of that, Nintendo doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, so they wouldn't let side games add a kick button. This would mean you would have to remake an entire new lobby if someone wouldn't leave. I'm so glad Nintendo wasn't above getting their fans into gambling, but a kick button would go way too far. But on the opposite side, it feels bad knowing that you're gated out of content for not having the correct character. I'm sure many of these players probably just didn't understand, wanted help, or really couldn't just afford the new character and had no choice. And because you couldn't use text chat to directly talk to these players, it fostered a toxic environment with these very passive-aggressive stickers. You didn't have the choice to talk things out even if you wanted to. This made for a very humiliating experience for everyone involved. I remember doing this light raid that involved using 3 or 4 Cleos. Now, Cleo was basically an absolutely broken character, and people would just use 4 copies of her to win easily. I, sadly, didn't have this character. Now, the 3 Cleo comp involved a character I did have. You would use this edgy boy as a tank who would bait the attacks away so this giant chicken wouldn't one-shot your Cleos. This wasn't easy to do, and just one hit would ruin everything. Regardless, I would practice and get better at this raid, so then I would be accepted into these lobbies. I didn't get accepted into these lobbies. The 4 Cleo comp was so comfortable that no one wanted to do anything else. Only out of desperation would I get accepted, and even then, I would have to play perfectly so I can join in multiple runs. Mobile games shouldn't feel like this. I worked 5 times as hard, only to maybe get picked on the team. And for the record, I'm not frustrated at the Cleos for winning a comfortable comp. I'm more upset that the raids hardly had any flexibility once they were optimized. Everyone just wanted their daily raids to be finished because it had a separate stamina system. It shouldn't have had to been this stressful. This FOMO made me realize that gacha games will pressure you to feel like you're letting people down, that you're not doing your best, and wasting people's time. So those are my 3 most haunting memories when it comes to gacha games. Why did I even continue to spend money after going through such a rough time? The sad part is, I couldn't realize the impact of these experiences at the time. My emotions didn't have this wise outlook of this written script. All I could think about was what was happening in the moment. And that's where it got the best of me. I felt frustrated. I wanted to win a game. I wanted to beat another player to put them in their place. I wanted to feel helpful. And I didn't want to let others down. I wanted so much. But all this vulnerability came with a price tag, and that price tag totaled over $15,000. I honestly think if you have the disposable income to enjoy an expensive hobby, then there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you take care of yourself, that's all that matters. So why did I change to free-to-play? Did I go bankrupt and take out a loan? No. But I wish I could have used that money for something more important. Oddly enough, income wasn't the main issue for me. It was less about the money and more for fixing my mentality. I don't know if anyone here can relate to this, but the world will push you to prove yourself. I wanted a different life than the one I grew up in, and because of that, I always felt like I had to keep going. I needed to prove myself and be highly functional for those promotions. I had to prove myself to get an education with a large loan as a souvenir. I had to prove myself that I was better than my classmates to get opportunities that others couldn't. I thought this warpath of obtaining a stable life would benefit me, but I didn't know it was digging my own grave. That grind set rooted my brain. Being molded to be highly functional came at a cost. I wanted to optimize all of my passions. I didn't know how to enjoy something I was lackluster in because I constantly made it so I wouldn't be lackluster in anything. Imagine going to a family gathering and instead of laughing with everyone, you're paying too much attention to the Uno cards. I didn't want to feel like this anymore. It doesn't need to be that serious. I had to break free. I needed to adopt a new way of thinking. My first idea was to stop spending money on these games. Obviously, that's how it all started, so if I stopped cold turkey, that would fix everything, right? Ironically, no. It actually made things worse. While my wallet was probably happy, my mindset still wasn't. You may think this is just par for the course, like dropping a bad habit, but that wasn't it really. The true reason why I wasn't happy with myself is because I was playing as a free-to-play player wrong. I'll use Girls Frontline 2 as an example. There's a lot of pressure as a free-to-play player. It's crazy to think of how much a progression jump you can get with just a $5 monthly pass, and I respect you all for not being tempted by it, especially when they put a free daily purchase in the shop, so you're forced to see the other package deals on a constant basis. But to me, the most suffocating part of being free-to-play is the pressure of avoiding mistakes. You have a limited amount of resources to work with, and you want to ensure that it's spent wisely. I also wanted to have a good start by rerolling accounts. I never rerolled much when I was a whale because I would spend money regardless. And just because you have a perfect start doesn't mean you'll have a perfect account. I've lost every single 50-50 in Girls Frontline 2 after my rerolls. There was all this pressure to not be wasteful, but then I realized I was relapsing. It was a relapse of me trying to play as optimal as possible again. I repeated the same thing I did as a whale. Even if I didn't spend money, there was still pressure of wanting some sort of correctness. Saving money wasn't what I needed, although my wallet is happy. What I really needed was something else. What I really needed was humility. Girls Frontline 2 has been out for over a year in China, so there's a lot of resources out there who avoid mistakes. And rightfully so. Who wants to make mistakes? Of course there's a market for that, and there's nothing wrong with guides bringing awareness to help others. But for my situation, it's not what I needed. I wanted to be okay with making my mistakes. I wanted the game to be mysterious and not solved, as weird as that sounds. I needed to separate myself from consuming this still useful information, because if I even humored it, I would fall back into the same hole. So I played Girls Frontline 2 with blissful ignorance. I wasted stamina on things that didn't matter. I invested in characters who I didn't know were good or bad. I failed over and over against bosses, and I had no idea of what a best was outside of my reroll. The idea of what the best was only in my head. I didn't need to prove myself to anyone because I only had a ruler for myself. The humility of being suboptimal and lackluster started to lift a weight off me. It felt like it was truly just a normal video game. Sure, there's always going to be power gates, but I was able to accept incompleteness. The pressure of correctness was gone. It helped me move forward with those mistakes instead of dwelling to avoid them. They felt so natural that there wasn't a reason to feel stuck on them. My free-to-play mindset has been less cloudy after going through this. It's not that serious to feel like you need to play a game optimally. There's a variety of game pressure FOMO to make you feel the opposite though. It will make you feel incomplete. It will make you feel insignificant, and it will make you feel like you're not enough. But it's crazy to think that those three fears are just what I wanted to avoid in real life. And a game shouldn't feel like that. A game should just be fun. Learning how to have fun incompetently is a hard pill to swallow, but I think that's the best way to go about it. It's not like spending money is off the table. I treat gacha characters like skins or new clothes. While I don't need new clothes, I enjoy having something nice and new. I wouldn't wail for clothes, but I would still spend a little. And that's how I feel about gacha. Right now, I'm still free to play in Girls Frontline 2, because any sort of pressure in the video game is just a recipe for a life of misery. If you like this video, please subscribe, or stop by my Twitch stream below.